Um, if you haven't finished it, finish Oedipus for, I keep thinking today's Friday for some reason, for Wednesday. I'm going to go ahead and put a quiz up probably later today. That'll be due Friday, so you'll have several days to get it done. That'll be over the introductory material from in the 11th edition, essentially 1120, page 1120, through the end of Oedipus the King. Okay, I want to pick up, I think we left off on page 1134. You have a little break in the middle of the page between two parts of Oedipus's long speech there. And I want to pick up with the second part, which is at line 269. He has, in the previous part of the speech, Oedipus has issued his judgment. The sentence that he wants to fall on the murderer of Laius or murderers of Laius, if there are more than one. Okay? So he says, back up for just a minute, 266. On you I lay my charge to fulfill all this for me, for the God and for this land of ours, destroyed and blighted by the God forsaken. Okay? So he's telling the chorus, and via the chorus, all the people of Thebes, it's up to you to execute this judgment that I've just pronounced. Okay? Not to me. It's up to you. And you're to do it for me, for the God, and for the city. Okay? Then he says, even were this no matter of God's ordinance, it would not fit you so to leave it lie, unpurified, since a good man is dead, and one that was a king. Even if we didn't know what Apollo has said or has ordered, he says, you should still be trying to find out what happened to Laius. That is, it shouldn't have taken so long. We're going to find out in a few moments, after he talks with Creon, that Laius was killed a long time ago. This isn't something like, it was a few weeks or a month or a year or 2 years or even 3 years. I think it's implied it was many years ago, all right? He says, you should have been about trying to find out what happened to him. So, search it out. Since I am now the holder of his office, and have his bed and wife that once was his, and had his line not been unfortunate, we would have common children. I think we talked about that a little bit the other day. We would have common children means Laius would have had children with Jocasta, and I would have had children, he does, have children with Jocasta. Okay? The big, if this were a sitcom from the 70s or 80s done in front of a live studio audience, above the actors on the stage, there would be a big sign that, when there was something funny, the sign said applause. Usually they had to do that because it wasn't funny. Okay? This, in this instance, it would say dramatic irony. But it wouldn't be needed because the audience totally understands what is meant. Oedipus is entirely clueless, as we'll see again when Tiresias comes in, because we're going to get this emphasis on light versus darkness, sight versus blindness. Okay? So, he says we would have common children, blah, blah, blah. Because of all these things, I fight in his defense as for my father. And that dramatic irony light would be flashing. Because he is fighting for his father. As I gave out the other day, and hopefully you've finished the play. Laius was his father. Jocasta is his mother. His children are his siblings. And he's totally 100% unaware. Okay? Which Tiresias is going to enlighten his darkness in just a few moments. So, the chorus speaks. As you have held me to my oath, I speak. I neither killed the king nor can declare the killer. So the chorus takes his earlier comments If you were the killer, announce it. If you know who the killer is, announce it. The chorus says, not the killer, don't know who was. So you can't hold us to that. But since Phoebus sent the quest, it is his part to tell who the man is. Now notice what the chorus says there. Or what does that tell us about the chorus? That last statement. Since Phoebus, that's the god Apollo, sent the quest, it is his part to tell who the man is. What is the chorus saying? Essentially, to Apollo. Reveal the truth. Tell us who the murderer is. Okay? What does that show on the part of the chorus? This, because we live in a, largely, I would argue, in a non- or anti-religious society, it's kind of hard to wrap your minds about it. But if you assume that the gods are real, and that they have power, and that they smack people around for getting a little too uppity, and you have this chorus saying, tell us who the murderer is, what is that telling us about the chorus? What are they revealing about themselves? Okay, what else? Is that a brave thing to do? Yes. It's like in the book of Job. Read the book of Job. It's like in the book of Job when all this crap happens to Job. Just one thing after another. He eventually ends up and loses all his wealth, all his property, all of his children. And then he's got, the whatever BC version of AIDS. Open boils and sores and all this kind of stuff. And his wife says, curse God and die. And Job says, nope, I'm not going to. But God, sit your butt down. Because you owe me. We're going to have a talk. This isn't right. And he spends a whole big long passage essentially saying that. Anybody know how God responds? Where were you when? I came up with the hippopotamus. Where were you when I made the earth? Where were you when? What's God's point? Who the hell do you think you are? In other words, Job steps outside his authority and position. The chorus is doing that here. The chorus here is showing courage that the chorus is not going to show in just a couple of pages. Okay? And we know that's what the chorus is doing because of how Oedipus responds. Right. In other words, you're right. The god does know the truth and should tell us. But to put compulsion on the gods against their will. You can't put God in the dock, so to speak. The dock being the witness chair in a trial. Okay? You can't say, God, come, I swear to tell the whole truth, so nothing but the truth, so help me, kind of a thing. And force God to speak. Can't happen. No man can do that. That's Oedipus going, whoa, back off. You're going to make Apollo angry. Okay, let me give you another idea. Oedipus, fine. And if you have a third, I'll take that one too. Why? Because your first idea is stupid. So give me a second and third option. Tiresias. He says, the chorus says, more than Tiresias. But you can sum up all those words with one word. Tiresias. Oedipus. Already sent for. Now, I mentioned the other day, Tiresias in Greek literature, every time he comes up, he's a prophet, he's blind, and he has always been right. Never once was Tiresias wrong. Okay? So, the chorus says, line 305, his skill apart, that is Tiresias' skill for being a prophet, and bear in mind, a prophet has kind of two meanings. You're telling the future, foretelling, telling it before it happens, and telling a present truth, forthtelling, being honest. I would argue every president ought to have a fourth teller. That is, someone who will sit down with the president and say, Mr., or maybe in the future, Mrs. President, you're being a damn fool. This is a stupid, boneheaded move. Don't do this. Nobody does. Maybe wives or husbands, but none of the other advisors. Okay? So, already sent for Tiresias. So, there's this old story. Oedipus, what is it? Of course, it was said he was killed by certain wayfarers. Now, he's already heard that, right? Oedipus has already heard 1135 in the 11th. He's already heard that there were multiple killers. Okay? And Oedipus says, 310, yeah, but no one saw the killer. Of course, but if he has a share of fear at all, that is, if the killer has any fear in him at all, his courage will not stand firm, hearing your curse. Well, what does that mean? Once word gets out, is published, what your curse is on the killer, the chorus is saying, this person won't be able to continue hiding the crime. That's what his courage will not stand firm means. Why? Inherent in this is the idea that every criminal makes a mistake. Not necessarily a mistake in the committing of the crime. Sometimes it's that. But a mistake afterwards in keeping the crime hidden. There's an old phrase within the English tradition, goes back at least 1,000 years, and the phrase is murder will out. A murderer will accidentally do or say something, betray something that will enable somebody else to figure out the crime. Okay? The chorus is suggesting if the murderer has any sense of fear, once he hears what you said, he's going to do something. The murderer's going to try to do something to make sure that nobody knows. And it's that doing something that is going to reveal him. Okay? Oedipus. The man who in the doing did not shrink will fear no word. That is, if someone was willing to kill the king, a sentence is not going to make him fear. Okay? Now, Oedipus's comment, I don't think I've ever thought about this before. Oedipus's comment might only be true if one part of it, if one thing suggested in it is true. It's assuming the person who killed Laius knew Laius was king. Okay? Of course, well, here comes Tiresias. Let's hear from him. So Tiresias comes, led by a little boy. Why? Because he's blind. Little boy, yeah, probably because there's pedophilia involved. Ancient Greeks had no problem with pedophilia. Oedipus, Tiresias, you are versed in everything. That means you are well taught. You are knowledgeable in everything. And he's going to explain what the everything means. Things teachable and things not to be spoken. Okay? Things of the heaven, that is, not just like clouds and stars, but things of the heavens, things in the realm of the gods, prophecy, in earth creeping things. Part of the prophetic craft is, oracles and such. Not just going to an oracle and hearing a word, but divining the future by cutting open birds and seeing how their entrails spill out, or cutting open other animals, rabbits and frogs and probably dogs and cats and all kinds of things. Okay? So that's what the heaven and earth creeping things refer to. You have eyes, but in your mind you know with what, you have no eyes, but in your mind you know with what a plague or city is afflicted. Okay? So, you're blind, but you see. My Lord, in you alone we find a champion. In you alone, one that can rescue us. It's almost like she says, you're our only hope, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You alone can bring this plague to an end. Okay? He says, maybe you haven't heard, and so he relates a little bit the prophecy or the oracle, Tiresias. Back up. Line 335, top of page 1136. We are in your hands. Pains are most nobly taken to help another when you have means and power. Pains are most nobly taken to help another when you have means and power. Pains means you put yourself outside of your comfort zone to help others. What? When you have the ability. Right? When you have the ability to help someone else, it might mean that you have to suffer a little bit yourself. But that's a good thing to do that, to help someone. Tiresias. Alas, how terrible is wisdom when it brings no profit to the man that's wise. What? This I knew well, but had forgotten it, else I would not have come here. Tiresias' response, his first words are similar to Crayon's first words when he comes back from the oracle, page 1130, line 97. Oedipus says, what word do you bring us from the god? A good word, for things hard to bear themselves, if in the final issue all is well, I count complete good fortune. What do you mean? Quit speaking in riddles. Tiresias speaks in a riddle too. How terrible is wisdom when it brings no profit to the man that's wise. Now, I think he's saying two things there. One, what Oedipus had said just previously. Pains are most nobly taken to help another when you have means and power. I think Tiresias is saying, that's wise. Good, that's good words. It's smart behavior. How terrible is wisdom. In other words, Oedipus, you have some wisdom when it brings no profit to the man that's wise. And I think what he means there is, you don't really understand the wisdom of the words you just said. What are the pains that will be most nobly taken to help another when you have means and power? I think Tiresias is getting kind of to the end with that statement. He's saying, oh, the wisdom of your words, the pains you will take, the pains you will endure to do what? To help another. Who's the other? The entire city of Thebes. Because he has the means and power. What are the means and power? He's already said, I fight in his defense as for my father. He's already said, let this whole sentence fall on me if I don't find the actual killer. Okay? It also means, so I think that's one meaning of his words. It also means, oh, I'm not in a good position here. Tiresias. How terrible is wisdom when it brings no profit to the man that's wise. Well, from what we've been told, who is the man that's wise? Tiresias, right? He's never been wrong. Okay? So why will his wisdom be terrible? I kind of told you on Friday, the general story, right? Oedipus is the killer. He is Laius' son. He is Jocasta's son. He is his children's sibling. All right? Tiresias is going to make this kind of clear in just a few moments. The wisdom Tiresias has is, I know all of that. Okay? But what profit will it bring him? He doesn't mean profit monetarily. He means what good, what benefit? How will it benefit Tiresias to know this information. You think he's going to get a promotion of some kind? You think Oedipus is really going to be thankful that he knows this? No. But Oedipus is going to seize, mentally at least, on that word profit, because he's going to start using the language of commerce and exchange, like information being bought and sold. Okay? Not immediately, but in a few minutes. He says, this I knew well. I knew the wisdom of what I just said. Okay? But had forgotten it. Or I wouldn't have come here. He says, I knew this well. And yet I came here. Why? Because I forgot that. If I had remembered, that those who are blessed with wisdom aren't always going to benefit from it, I would have stayed at home. What? How sad you are now. You have come. Why are you sad now? Let me go home. It'll be easiest for us both to bear our several destinies to the end if you will follow my advice. Notice, I have to bear my destiny. You have to bear your destiny. Let me just go home, and we'll each suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, to quote Hamlet, on our own. Why does he say that? He knows the truth. What is his destiny? To be a foreteller and a forth-teller. It's kind of like he can't stop it from happening. What is Oedipus's destiny? Let me back up. From what we will come to learn, there was a prophecy. I talked about it on Friday. The prophecy was, before Oedipus was even born, while he was still in his mother's womb, this one will kill you, Laius, father, and marry you, Jocasta, mother, and have children by you. Okay? Put yourself in Laius and Jocasta's position. What do you do at that point? I'm against abortion, but I would kind of go, okay, I'll make an exception here, because if nothing else, it's my life on the line. Okay? So what do? The baby's born, and they put the pin between the ankles. That's a nail. Like from the outside of the right ankle through the inside of the right ankle into the inside of the left ankle to the outside of the left ankle. All the way across. All right? And leave them on a mountain. Okay? Tiresias already knows all that. He knows what's happened. He might not know all the individual particulars. Okay? But he knows what the upshot is. So, just let me go home. You go back home. I won't say anything. You won't know anything. And you'll be fat, dumb, and happy for the rest of your life. Or maybe skinny, dumb, and happy. But you'll be dumb and ignorantly happy, right? Because what's the famous phrase? Ignorance is bliss. You'd rob us of this, your gift of prophecy? Notice, rob. How can he rob them of his gift of prophecy? What is Oedipus saying about the prophecy or the gift of prophecy? It's not his. That gift of prophecy belongs to the people. You'd keep it. You talk as one who had no care for law nor love for Thebes who reared you. You don't want to help Thebes? Yes, but I see that even your own words miss the mark. Miss the mark. That is a literal translation of the Greek word hamartia. It's in your introduction. Okay? Hamartia is the Greek word used throughout the Greek New Testament that gets translated into modern English as sin. is missing the bullseye. It's an archery. This is an archery term. You pull the bow back, you aim, oops, I missed. Okay? So he says, your words missed the mark. In other words, you don't have a clue what you're saying, Oedipus. For God's sake, if you know of anything, don't turn from us. We all kneel to you. Look, even I am kneeling to you. All right? All of you here know nothing. Now, you can say, word and a half another day. That's a little bit hubristic. I mean, they could say, well, we know some things. I mean, what could Oedipus say? I solved the riddle of the Sphinx. I knew that. You, all of you here, that's you, Oedipus, and you, the chorus, you don't know diddly squat. What does he mean by know? About the murder of Laius. You know nothing about that. I will not bring to the light of day my troubles. Mine. Okay? Where are his troubles? They're hidden. They're dark. But where are they? They are in Tiresias. What are those troubles? He is burdened with that knowledge. Okay? Assume for a moment, just wildly assume. I won't use a current present. Use a previous one. That the right-wing stories about Bill and Hillary Clinton are true. That, all these people who run afoul of them mysteriously end up dead. And the reason there's this conspiracy is because there are a bunch of people that the Clintons knew that have, over a period of like 30, 40 years, died. Okay, some in suspicious situations. Assume for a moment all that's true, and somebody knows all the truth about it. Do you think it would be easy being that person? Probably not. Okay? That's kind of what he's getting at. He says, I'm going to keep them burdened, topped up, bottled up in here, rather than call them yours. Your troubles. It's his troubles, Oedipus's, that Tiresias knows about. But as long as Tiresias keeps them inside, they're his troubles, and Oedipus is innocent. Okay? What do you mean? In other words, quit speaking in riddles. You know something, but you won't speak? Tiresias, I will not bring this pain upon us both, neither on you nor on myself. Notice, he has a pain. He says, but I'm not going to bring it on us both. Because what's going to happen, assume for the moment, if Tiresias just blurts out right here, you're the killer, he's going to on the next page. You're the killer, your wife is your mother, your children are your brothers and sisters. What's going to happen with that pain that he brings on Oedipus? Oh, you want to talk about pain, Tiresias? You're going to feel pain. It's going to be retaliated. Why is it you question me and waste your labor? Waste your labor. Your efforts are all in vain. Just stop. Just stop now. I will tell you nothing. You would provoke. Tell us, you villain, tell us, and do not stand there quietly. You blame my temper, but you do not see, and notice what he starts to do. You blame my temper, but you do not see your own that lives within you. Your own what? Your own temper. What does he mean? What have we already seen Oedipus do in talking with Creon? When Creon first comes back from receiving the oracle at Delphi. What does Creon ask him? Anybody remember? He says, yeah, I've been to the oracle, got the word of the god. We could go inside, and I could tell you. Or if you want me to blurt it out here in front of everybody, and Oedipus says, oh, out here. Okay? He's showing He is rash. Okay? He doesn't think everything through. He makes spur-of-the-moment decisions. When do you want spur-of-the-moment decisions? There might be some times. You know, if you're in the military and you're in the battlefield and there's somebody running at you and they're starting to lift a weapon, or if you're a cop and somebody's coming at you and starting to lift a weapon, spur-of-the-moment decision. You don't go, are they really going to shoot me, or are they running up to give me a hug? You know, no, you shoot them. Okay. You heard the Russian, president has pressed the button and nuclear weapons are heading our way. Do you just say, okay, well, we're going to pray that they don't hit? Probably not, You blame my temper, but you do not see your own. You don't see how your actions are rash. It is me you chide. Who would not feel his temper rise? In other words, who in my position wouldn't get angry? You're supposed to be telling me what's going to happen. It's kind of hard because we don't have prophets anymore, right? I mean, notwithstanding what some people like to think about themselves, pundits and prognosticators and all that, polls, so to speak. Of themselves things will come, although I hide them and breathe no word of them. What? Of themselves things will come. What is themself is a pronoun. It stands for something else. What does it stand for? Things. Of things, things will come. What is he talking about? Okay, Oedipus is in the position of what I just asked. What do you mean, blind old man? Speak clearly. What is he talking about? Anybody know? This. Another way of putting that is, what will be, will be. There ain't no changing it, folks. It will happen. Whatever it is. There's no way to stop it. Okay? He says, although I hide them and breathe no word of them. Well, you're going to find out. Whether I tell you or not, you are going to find out. Well, if that's going to happen, then tell me. Give me a little warning, is what Oedipus is kind of saying. I will say nothing further. Against this answer, let your temper rage as wildly as you will. Now, that's a lie. Let me rephrase that. I think when Tiresias says that, he really means, I'm not going to tell you. But within less than a page, he does. Why? Because we have this going on. A tit for tat. It's escalation. You say something, I say something else. Then you say something else, and then I say something else. It's like, you punch me, I pull out a knife. You pull out a gun, okay? I pull out a semi-automatic. You pull out a fully automatic, I pull out a howitzer. You pull, and we just nuclear, That's how it works. I'm so angry I shall not hold back a jot of what I think. And then what does he say? What's the word complotter at the top of the next page mean? One who is part of a plot or conspiracy. So while they're talking, Oedipus starts to think, you were involved. You were involved in the murder of Laius. Oh, I know you didn't do it yourself. Why not? Blind. Couldn't see Laius. He'd be swinging with the sword, wildly. Okay? Tiresias, yes? In other words, really? Okay. And this is where he puts the lie to what he just said about no matter what you say, I won't say anything. So why does he make what he said previously untrue? He's being accused of murder. Okay? You put someone's back to the wall, what is that person going to do? They're going to use every defense they have. Then I warn you faithfully to keep the letter of your proclamation, and from this day forth speak no word of greeting to these nor me. How is that a response to what Oedipus has just accused Tiresias of? Well, when Tiresias says those words, who is he quoting? That's part of Oedipus' sentence. Upon the murderer, or those who know who the murderer is, let this person, he says, line 250, page 1134, I forbid any to welcome him or cry him greeting or make him a share in sacrifice or offering to the gods or give him water for his hands to wash. So, let no one do any of that to you, he says. You are the land's pollution. Now, again, that's a little enigmatic. It could be clearer, which he's going to make clear on line 396, 395, 396. Oedipus, how shamelessly you started up this taunt. That is, you started this tit for tat. How? By saying, let me just go back home and I'll keep my secrets to myself. Tiresias, in response to, how do you think you will escape? I have. That is, I've already escaped. I have escaped. The truth is what I cherish, and that's my strength. In other words, he is saying to Oedipus, notwithstanding your being king and all, you can't touch me. Why not? Who does he, in one sense, speak for? Apollo. Apollo will protect me, is kind of what he's suggesting. Oedipus, then who has taught you the truth? Not your profession, surely. What's meant by profession? He doesn't mean you're professing the truth. It's the noun form. Your profession is what all of you are kind of studying, I assume. What you are studying for. What you want to do as a career. Why do you want to do that as a career? And I don't mean whatever the particular thing is. It's so that you can put money in this thing so that you can live. And eat and have food and clothing and shelter and all that kind of stuff. It's commerce that he's talking about. It wasn't your profession. And he's suggesting that Tiresias sells prophecy to the highest bidder. Or, if Ashton gives me $20, I'll say one thing. If Amaya gives me $50, I'll say the opposite. Notice he's suggesting there Tiresias, he's a liar. Or, pronounce that another word, a lawyer. Because what can a good lawyer do? Argue both positions, defense and prosecuting. A good lawyer is taught to be able to argue any position on any case. Okay? Not lying, that's where I'm going to draw the line, but to present evidence in such a way to secure a conviction or to secure a, not indictment, the other one, non-guilty plea. Can't get the right word. So, who has taught you? Not your profession. Tiresias. You taught me. What does he mean? You're the one who made me speak against my will. Right? Speak what? Tell me again what it is so I can understand. Did you not understand before? I didn't. No, please. Say it again. I say you are the murderer, like 395. You are the murderer of the king whose murderer you seek. You don't get much clearer than that, right? I mean, you could say you killed Laius. That would be a little clearer. But that's pretty clear. He says, twice now you've said this. You think you're going to escape unpunished? Shall I say more? To tempt your anger more? In other words, if you're going to punish me, here, let me give you more to punish me for. Go ahead. Fine, you have the floor. Okay. Line 400. I say that with those you love best, you live in foulest shame unconsciously, and do not see where you are in calamity. So, unconsciously, meaning unintentionally, without any purpose, you live in foulest shame. Notice it's not just foul, it's the most extreme foul kind of shame. With your wife and children. But it's unconscious. If it's unconscious, what might that imply? You know, there's a phrase in Anglo-American legal tradition. Ignorance of the law is not justification. That is, if you aren't aware of a law and you break that law, being ignorant of that law does not mean you're innocent. Okay? That's legal tradition. This is moral tradition. Okay? What's he getting at? The whole thing that he is married and sleeping with his mother still, I mean, not this exact moment, but maybe when he goes back in the palace, and has his children and siblings around him. You know, we think, ew, right? Hopefully most people think, ew. There's been, I told my first class, I don't know, like 4 or 5 cases in the last 10 or 20 years. You can search them on the internet. I don't suggest it, but you can. Of a couple that have been married for like 10 or 20 years find out after being married for like 10 or 20 years that they're actually siblings because they were both adopted, okay? And then they met each other and they immediately hit it off. It's like, I always knew you, kind of a, and it turns out, well, there's like a genetic reason why they kind of always knew. So, is that incest? I mean, according to one reading, legally speaking, if it's in a state where incest is illegal, because I don't think all of them, I could be wrong, I don't think all of the United States do have incest on the books still. Where incest is on the books, yes, strictly legally speaking, you would say, oh, they've committed incest, that's against the law. But they didn't know anything about it. And that's usually where the mercy is applied. It's like they were totally unaware. So do you make somebody, and 2 people in that situation get divorced? I don't know. That's a moral conundrum that Oedipus is kind of, or Sophocles is kind of wrestling with. Okay? It's unconscious. He's saying, you didn't intend to sleep with your mother. You didn't intend to kill your father. But the prophecy never said, the one who is in you now will intend to kill his father and intend to sleep with his mother. All right? This, by the way, this whole incest thing, it's what Freud based most of his psychoanalytic theory on. That every boy wants to replace his father and sleep with his mother. And then there's another play called Electra, about a daughter, and every daughter wants to replace her mother and sleep with her father. My opinion, you don't have to agree by any means. What a load of you-know-what. Buried as deep as you can think. He bases almost his entire theory on those 2 stories. Okay? So, that's pretty clear what he's just said. Oedipus, you think you can walk away and talk like this if the truth has anything of strength? What I've just said, 100% true. It does, but not for you. It has no strength for you. Why? Because you are blind in mind and ears as well as in your eyes. What is Oedipus reduced to? What kind of attack did he just use in rhetoric? I don't think I have it up there. Ad hominem, to the man. Well, that's a stupid response because you're blonde. What does hair color have to do with a statement? Absolutely nothing. He's saying you are wrong about everything because you're blind. And because you're physically blind, he says you're blind in the mind. Tiresias, you are a poor wretch to taunt me with the very insults which everyone soon will heap upon yourself. See, that's not an ad hominem. It's more foretelling and forthtelling. Oedipus can now, with these eyes, he can see very well. But with his mind's eyes, with his mind, his intellect, he can see about as well as this wallet. He doesn't see anything. Your life is one long night. Again, more ad hominem. Because he's blind, all he sees is darkness. So that you cannot hurt me or any other who sees the light. Oedipus, it is not fate that I should be your ruin. Apollo is enough. Okay? I'm not going to be the one to bring about your fate. Okay? It's Apollo's care to work this out. And then notice what Oedipus does again. So at the top of that page, line 377 or so, Oedipus did what? He jumped to the conclusion that that Tiresias had plotted against Laius. And in doing so, he's also plotting against Oedipus. Okay? Bottom of that page, he then jumps to another conclusion. Creon put you up to this. Which means Creon is also, or Creon if you want, is also part of the conspiracy. Top of 1138. Creon is no hurt to you, but you are to yourself. Now notice Tiresias doesn't have to say anything there. He could just keep quiet, let him think it's Creon. But he comes to Creon's defense. Creon is innocent. Well, sovereignty, skill, outmatching skill for the contrivance of an envied life. And he goes on suggesting Creon wants his job. Okay? And he goes on and he says, why couldn't you solve the riddle of the Sphinx? It's because you don't tell the truth. You're not a real prophet, etc. Okay? Chorus, line 446. We look at this, keep in mind the chorus comments on what's happened and been said before. We look at this man's words and yours, my king, and we find both have spoken them in anger. We find we need no angry words, but only thought how we may best hit the God's meaning for us. What's the chorus trying to do there? Trying to be peacemakers. You've spoken in anger, O king. You, Tiresias, have spoken in anger. People who speak in anger often say what? Sorry, I didn't mean that. I didn't mean to say. Okay? You both got a little hot-headed. Let's just try to figure out what the God wants. Okay? So Tiresias says, I have a right to defend myself against you. He says, so, 455, since you have taunted me with being blind, here is my word for you. You have your eyes, but see not where you are in sin, nor where you live, nor whom you live with. Do you know who your parents are? Now that's a classic. Non sequitur. Latin phrase in rhetoric that means it does not follow. What I mean by that is, what the hell are you talking about? Why are you bringing up my parents when we're talking about you being this part of this conspiracy to kill Laius and get my job? Do you know who your parents are? Unknowing, ignorant, unconscious, unintentionally, you are an enemy to kith and kin in death. Death. You're an enemy to someone in your family who is now dead, is what that means. Beneath the earth and in this life. And you're an enemy to someone in your family who's currently alive. A deadly footed, and that's a little pun on his club footedness. So notice Tiresias is not, totally immune to using a little bit of ad hominem attack. A deadly footed, double striking curse from father and mother both shall drive you forth out of this land. That is, your father issued a curse, and your mother issued a curse. With darkness on your eyes that now have such straight vision. There shall be a place will not be harbor to your cries. A corner of Kithron will not ring and echo. Blah, 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 blah. What was the final part of Oedipus' sentence upon the murderer? The person will be driven forth from the land and will spend his days in miserable wandering. Tiresias just confirmed that. The same thing's going to happen, only it's going to happen to Oedipus. And that is what happens to Oedipus. He spends the remainder of his life walking around with a stick, having somebody to guide him. He finds no comfort. He finds no place to live. All right? Except for the very end of his life in a town called Colonus. And that's told in the play Oedipus at Colonus. Okay? 476. Misery shall grind no man as it will you. That's pretty bad. No one will suffer like you have suffered. Okay? Oedipus says, leave. 483, Tiresias. I am a fool then, as it seems to you, but to the parents who have bred you, wise. What? Parents, stop. Stop. Who? Who are you talking about? This day will show your birth and will destroy you. How needlessly your riddles darken everything, but it's in riddle answering you are strongest. Okay, come on. Mr. Sphinx riddle answerer. Yes, taught me where you'll find me great. It is the very luck that has destroyed you. I do not care if it has saved the city. Come, boy, lead me away. Okay? So, Tiresias says, I tell you, king, this is line 497 or so, this murderer, whom you have long declared you are in search of, indicting him and threatening proclamation as murderer of lies, he is here. And I think what Oedipus means is here, right now, in this location. So who's there? Tiresias, Oedipus, of course. In name, he is a stranger among citizens, but soon he will be shown to be a citizen, true native Theban, and he'll have no joy in the discovery. We will find out the murderer of Laius is someone who was born in Thebes, a native-born Theban. And he'll have no joy of the discovery. Blindness for sight, beggary for riches, his exchange. He shall go journey into a foreign country, tapping his way, blah, blah. He shall be proved, to make it crystal clear, father and brother both to his own children in his house. To her that gave him birth, a son and husband both. A fellow sower in his father's bed. Okay? With that same father that he murdered. Go inside. Reckon that out. In other words, figure out what that means. And if you find me mistaken, say I have no skill in prophecy. And I think that last sentence, and if you find that I'm wrong, say that I have no skill in prophecy, it's implied there, then come kill me. If I'm wrong in anything I've just said, you can take my head. He goes inside. Tiresias leaves. Oedipus goes inside. And the chorus then comments. Okay, we're going to skip the chorus. 2 minutes. Crayon comes in. Why? Words reached him. Oedipus has accused him of conspiring to murder Laius. And in doing so, wanting Oedipus's position. Okay? So, they talk back and forth on 1141. I want to finally get down to, Crayon says, line 601. Will you listen to words to answer yours and then pass judgment? It's a nice, polite way of saying, would you please shut up? Let me speak, then you can issue your judgment. He says, you're quick to speak, but I'm slow to grasp you, for I have found you dangerous. And shh. Don't tell me you're not guilty. What has Oedipus already done for Creon? Okay, don't tell me you're not guilty. Means what? In my eyes, you're already guilty. So don't give me an innocent plea. He's prejudged him. If you think obstinacy without wisdom a valuable possession, you're wrong. The reverse of that is true. If you think obstinacy with wisdom is a valuable possession, you're right. If you are wise and if you are in the right, then Creon says you should be obstinate about the particular thing you are right about. Okay? Oedipus, Creon is suggesting, is the opposite. He is wrong, but he is obstinately wrong. He's going to stick to his guns in his wrongness. Sound like anybody we've read about? Guy who has a thing with matches, likes to burn down barns, who we were told he has this ravening, ferocity in the rightness of his own decisions. Very much so. Okay, we'll stop there. We'll pick up that page. And we'll finish it. We'll probably finish this on Wednesday. Like I said, I'll put up a quiz over all the introduction stuff to Sophocles and the entire play. And it'll be due Friday. Sorry.